The Empire's invitation. The Galactic Empire had fought wars across the stars for millennia, conquering and assimilating species into its vast dominion. Its soldiers were drawn from battle-hardened warrior races, reptilian Draxians, insectoid Kryn, and the feline-like Valka. Each was bred for war, their martial traditions spanning eons. When humanity was discovered, the Empire saw them as little more than an afterthought, an untested, primitive species barely capable of space travel. That perception changed when they met Captain Daniel Reeves. Reeves stood in the Empire's grand military recruitment hall, surrounded by towering alien warriors. His lean but muscular frame was unimposing compared to the massive, clawed, and armored creatures that filled the chamber. The air hummed with tension as alien officers observed him with curiosity and skepticism. "Human," growled General Zolvarn, a scaled Draxian commander, his slitted yellow eyes narrowing. "You claim your species knows war, but your kind has never fought among the stars. Why should the Empire waste its time on you?" Reeves met the alien's gaze without flinching. "Because war isn't about where you fight," he said. "It's about how you win." A murmur rippled through the gathered officers. Zolvarn grunted, unimpressed, and motioned toward the testing chamber. "Show us, then." The trials began. Reeves faced a gauntlet of combat simulations designed to evaluate his physical prowess, tactical awareness, and marksmanship. His opponents included seasoned Valka hunters, Kryn battle drones, and Draxian gladiators. The Imperial officers expected the human to falter, to crumble under the sheer intensity of the challenges. Instead, they watched in stunned silence as Reeves adapted. In close-quarters combat, he moved with precision, quick, brutal, and efficient. While other species relied on strength or speed, Reeves fought with a terrifying pragmatism, exploiting weaknesses with ruthless efficiency. Against automated war drones, he dismantled them with controlled bursts of gunfire, each shot deliberate and deadly. When placed in battlefield simulations, he led squads with tactical brilliance, outmaneuvering enemy forces with strategies the Empire had never considered. By the end of the trials, the alien officers no longer questioned his ability. They questioned how a single human could be this dangerous. Zolvarn watched the final combat recordings in silence. The human's movements were too efficient, his kill shots too precise. His species had no interstellar war history, no centuries of conquest. Yet Reeves fought as if war was ingrained in his very being. "Impressive," the general finally said, though his voice carried a hint of unease. "You will be assigned to an elite strike team. But understand this, human, you are not one of us yet." Reeves simply nodded. He had no intention of being one of them. He was here to fight, to prove humanity's place among the stars. The Empire had accepted him. They just didn't realize what they had unleashed. The battlefield baptism. The dropship's engines roared as it cut through the stormy atmosphere of Varkos 9, a barren wasteland controlled by the rebel coalition. The mission was simple: eliminate an enemy stronghold and secure a forward position for the Empire's forces. Reeves sat among his new squad, the Empire's elite Crimson Talons, a unit composed of seasoned alien warriors. He could feel their eyes on him. Jortau, a towering feline-like Valka, leaned in. "Try not to slow us down, human. This isn't one of your primitive Earth skirmishes. This is war." Reeves smirked. "You'll see soon enough." The dropship's ramp lowered, revealing the war-torn landscape. The enemy fortress loomed in the distance, its automated turrets scanning for threats. Reeves gripped his rifle and followed his squad into the chaos. The battle erupted instantly. Energy blasts scorched the air as rebels fired from fortified positions. The Crimson Talons moved with coordinated precision, but Reeves moved like a predator let loose. While his squad took cover and exchanged fire, Reeves was already advancing, using the terrain to flank the enemy. His rifle snapped to targets with lethal accuracy, headshots, center mass, vital points. Each trigger pull meant another body hitting the ground. A Kryn warrior beside him hesitated under heavy fire. Reeves grabbed the insectoid by its carapace and threw it to safety before rolling forward and planting a grenade beneath an enemy barricade. The explosion sent bodies flying. Jortal caught glimpses of Reeves through the chaos. Always moving, always killing. The human wasn't just fighting. He was hunting. By the time the fortress was secured, the battlefield was silent, save for the crackling flames and the groans of the wounded. The squad regrouped, breathing heavily, their armor scorched and dented. Reeves wiped the sweat from his brow, barely winded. Jortal and the others stared at him. "Mission complete," Reeves said casually. They didn't respond. Instead, Jortal checked the squad's combat reports. His fur bristled as he saw the numbers. The entire squad had performed well. Dozens of enemies eliminated. A successful mission. But Reeves alone had over 300 confirmed kills. Jortal's claws flexed instinctively. No Imperial soldier, no matter how experienced, had ever racked up a count like that in a single battle. Even the Draxians, bred for war, would consider it unnatural. The others saw the numbers too. The way they looked at Reeves changed. Before, he had been the outsider, the untested human. Now he was something else. Something terrifying. As the squad boarded the dropship, Jortal sat beside Reeves, his voice quieter now. "I don't know what kind of wars your species has fought, human, but I think we've made a mistake." Reeves simply smiled. The Galactic Empire had accepted him, but now they feared him. Fear and paranoia in the ranks. Back aboard the Imperial fleet, Reeves noticed the shift immediately. Before the battle on Varkos 9, his squad mates had been skeptical, even dismissive. Now they avoided him. Conversations stopped when he entered the room. Soldiers he had fought beside refused to meet his gaze. Even Jortal, who had been the most vocal about proving himself superior, now regarded him with wary respect and fear. Reeves didn't care. He wasn't here to make friends. He was here to fight. But the Empire saw things differently. The meeting. In a high-security war chamber deep within the fleet, General Zalvarn and the Empire's highest-ranking officers gathered to discuss one thing: the human problem. A holographic projection displayed footage from the battle. Reeves moving through the battlefield with eerie precision, dropping enemies with single shots, weaving through fire as if he could predict it. The final kill count appeared on the screen. 312 confirmed kills. The room was silent. "Impossible," one officer muttered. "Even our most decorated warriors would struggle to achieve half that." "He is unmodified," Zalvarn growled. "No cybernetics. No genetic enhancements. Just human." A Valka officer shook her head. "No soldier should be capable of that level of lethality. If he were an enemy, we would classify him as a walking extinction event." That thought hung in the air. If he were an enemy, the idea spread like an infection. Reeves was an unknown factor, a predator that fought and killed with terrifying efficiency. What if his loyalty wavered? What if he turned against the Empire? Could even an army stop him? "The Empire does not rely on unknown variables," Zalvarn said at last. "He must be contained." They did not say the word, but everyone in that room understood what contained meant. The watchful eyes. Reeves was no fool. He noticed the security drones shadowing his movements, the subtle changes in his deployment assignments. His access to high-clearance battle plans had been revoked. Weapons officers hesitated before handing him gear. His missions were now monitored. It was clear. They no longer saw him as a soldier. They saw him as a threat. Jortal confronted him in the mess hall one evening, lowering his voice so only Reeves could hear. "They fear you, human. They think you're something unnatural. They think you're going to turn against them." Reeves took a slow bite of his rations. "Are you afraid too, Jortal?" The Valka warrior hesitated. "I was," he admitted. "Now, I think they're right to be." Reeves chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Then they should have thought twice before putting me on the battlefield." As he left the mess hall, he felt eyes on him. Too many eyes. The Galactic Empire had accepted him. Now, they were planning to kill him. The hunter becomes the hunted. Reeves sat alone in his quarters, disassembling his sidearm with methodical precision. He wasn't paranoid by nature, but years of war had sharpened his instincts. The Empire's fear was turning into action. He could feel it. His assignments had changed. His gear was being checked more frequently. The security drones were no longer subtle. And now, his door was locked from the outside. They were making their move. The kill squad. General Zalvarn stood in a darkened command room, watching the feed from the ship's security network. A strike team of 6 elite Imperial operatives moved toward Reeves' quarters, silent and armed with plasma rifles set to kill. Each one was a hardened warrior, trained to eliminate high-value targets quickly and efficiently. The human cannot be allowed to walk freely, Zalvarn muttered. This is necessary. The trap. The operatives stacked outside Reeves' quarters, weapons raised. The lead soldier triggered the door override. The room was empty. A single rifle lay on the table, stripped down to its core components. The team hesitated for half a second too long. From the shadows, Reeves struck. Moving like a phantom, he emerged from the ventilation duct above them. His knife flashed in the dim light, slicing through the first operative's throat before he could even turn. The second barely raised his rifle before Reeves ripped it from his hands and fired a burst into his chest. The hallway exploded into chaos. The remaining operatives scrambled, but Reeves was already moving. He weaved through the gunfire, closing the distance too fast for them to adjust. His hands became weapons, his blade an extension of himself. One by one, they fell. The last soldier backed away, eyes wide with terror, his rifle shaking in his grip. Reeves stood over him, blood splattered across his uniform. His voice was calm. Tell them they should have just let me fight for them. Then he pulled the trigger. The escape. Zalvarn stared at the security feed, his scaled fists clenched. 6 of his best operatives wiped out in under a minute. The alarms blared as Reeves moved through the ship like a ghost, slipping past security checkpoints and overriding lockdown doors with ease. By the time the fleet's forces mobilized, it was too late. A stealth fighter launched from the hangar bay, its engines roaring into the void. The human was gone. The legend begins. The official records marked Captain Daniel Reeves as a rogue element, a fugitive of the Empire. But the soldiers whispered a different story, a story of a human who had walked among them, a warrior so lethal that even the Empire feared him. Some believed he would disappear. Others feared he would return. And somewhere in the galaxy, a rebel faction had just heard the most interesting rumor yet. The death machine was loose.